Welcome back to A Little Bit of Cheese, your bite-sized Wisconsin sports podcast. I'm your host, Cody Depius. That is Sam Douglas, as we are ready for a Thanksgiving feast of a week here. An exciting week once again for the Green Bay Packers, starting it off the big ol' win against the San Francisco 49ers. You got to start at the top here. It was all Josh Jacobs getting it done. 26 carries, 106 yards, 3 tutties, averaging over 4 yards a carry. I know I was saying this very early. This is the best Packers running back I have watched. You can take it back, and I think right now it's him and Amon Green, and then whoever the Packers had in the 60s, like with Jim Taylor and Paul Hornung. Like, those are your top four Packers running backs of all time. And we're just 11 weeks into the Josh Jacobs era. I want your full takes. What did you see? What was working? What was happening for Jacobs?
Hey, same exact thing. Going into the game, we saw right away, this is a beat up 49ers team. It's as beautiful as it is to knock them down 38-10. This is not the same 49ers team that we've been running into the playoffs. But hey, Bosa was out. Their D line is still there. A lot of their big injuries were not big run stoppers. So to see Jacobs just power through and keep doing his thing was a darn thing of beauty. Like you said, this team has been dominated by quarterbacks since our entire lives before we've been around, since the early 90s. So having a bell cow back that's three down guy that can take hits, make you miss, break tackles, it's a thing of beauty that we haven't been able to see. The Packers notoriously, as long as I've been around, have been tackled easily and struggled to make tackles. So, seeing this work going inside in the box is refreshing. It's beautiful, and it's got us 8-3 right now.
And I think a lot of this has to go to the offensive line. Like, there are so many points in this game when Love had so much time sitting back in the pocket and the hole was always there for Jacobs. You can look at the line and be like, all right, he got his 4.1 yards a carry. You know how many times they ran it with him inside the 5 and he got stuffed a couple times? Like, they wanted to get him those 3 touchdowns. They wanted Jacobs to get that hat trick. But the pass protection, and I think this goes for the entire year, has been so good. Rasheed Walker, Josh Myers, guys who I was not too high on going into the season, they've played great all across that line. You have to give them their cheese, is the way I'm going to say it. Give them their roses. No, we'll give them their cheese. But the offensive line playing to the tune of just 2 sacks in this game, and it feels like one of their horror games as an offensive line unit. They have done their job, even that game against Detroit. And I know Sam was picking some bones with this conversation, but this team is there and they can protect against a good defensive line. They can open up the holes and they're going to give Jordan Love time. And I think a healthy Jordan Love, much more in the sense where he can roll outside of the pocket. I'm very excited where the line's at. They built this thing up where I didn't think, like, I was high on it to a sense, but I wasn't ecstatic about it. I am ecstatic where the offensive line is at right now. And Jordan Love, 13 for 23, 163 yards, 2 touchdowns, should have been 3. Christian Watson looking like a glorified Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I know you probably have some things to say about that, but overall, I want to hear your thoughts on Jordan Love's day. How did the passing game look?
Passing game looked all right. Again, we really didn't have to do much out of the passing game. This game was, ours in hand pretty early on. Hate to see the big drop from Christian Watson. But 10 guys got targets today on Sunday. So he's spreading the ball around. I think Dobbs had the highest target count at 6. Everybody else is, sitting at 2, sitting at 3. Um, I would love to see some sort of alpha come out of our wide receiver room. I'm not saying that it needs to be a 10 target a week guy. I would love to have just something reliable. I don't want to see Bo Melton catching a big 3rd and 12. I love
I
that
do. I
everything
do.
is
I
so
want to see it.
versatile. But I would love to see us like target Jaden Reed just a little bit, or is it Dobbs on a slant, or just feel like we have something really really solid that we can rely on. Now again, it's tough to have big takeaways from this game in particular because this Niners team, they're so beat to heck. And the thing with the Niners, what they're going through this year is nobody ever claimed that they were a very deep team. The whole 49ers shtick was the top end talent. Is that Deebo Samuel firing at the highest level? Is Trent Williams one of the better left tackles the game's ever seen? Having Nick Bosa, one of the highest paid. When you're down your studs on a team that is built off that, it's going to look a lot. You're playing your backup quarterback and he's got a broken finger. And so it's never going to be a game that the 49ers really challenged us on. And so going back to last week when we made our predictions, I don't think that we were privy to all this information. We were saying that the Packers are going down. But hey, 0 interceptions from Jordan Love. That's what we were asking for. There could have been a couple balls that could have been picked, a couple more throws into double coverage. But it's progress, and that's all that we're asking for out of these young quarterbacks. He still played, I think, started less than 30 games total as a starter. So we're still looking for progress, and we're getting there step by step. I want to see us stay healthy. We're going to be in the playoffs. Let's stay healthy and let's go get a couple wins out of here.
I think so too. I think it is progress and not really in the way that Love threw the ball, but just for the fact that you did get that one game out of the way without an interception. I know I ended the show with it last week. We are just waiting for it. And I'll be fair, a little bit lucky in that sense. There were two throws, and Tom Brady commented on it at the end of the game, where sometimes there are more passes put in danger way than you would like to see out of a quarterback trying to go win a Super Bowl. And I will also say this. I think Tom Brady has been doing an incredible job in the booth. Like compared to what he was early on, like just a 10-week swing, Brady's been doing a great job. But I think there were a couple steps forward here for Love. And like you said, he wasn't asked to do a whole lot, and I'm okay with that. If you can go into the playoffs and play stout on defense, which they didn't have to play all that stout against Brandon Allen, who I actually think had a pretty good day, and Deebo Samuel had a bad day, kind of switching up on that. That was the interception to McKinney, was right through Deebo Samuel's hands. He dropped another big one later in the game. I thought Brandon Allen actually played a solid game. But back to my point, if you play solid defense, you can run the ball, you have that time of possession, that can be a method. And then you always know in your back pocket, you have a 2-minute drill at the end of it that you can run with Jordan Love and those guys, where the ceiling is as high as it can be. But I think if you can keep things simple for these guys and let them build a momentum, continue to pound it with Jacobs. And it's not just Jacobs, too. Emmanuel Wilson behind him. Chris Brooks is adding so much to this roster right now. What he's able to do as the third running back has been incredible. Out of the backfield, pass blocking, when they got to hand it off to him as well. All three of those guys, this might be the best 4-man running back room I've ever seen with Marshawn Lloyd. He hasn't been able to take the field so far this year. But Gutekunst has been cooking up something special in that running back room. And I think a lot of great things going for that sense. I do want to do a public apology here because I did listen back to the episode last week, and I was pretty tough on Quay Walker. I think I used the word embarrassment a couple of times there, and I don't know, maybe that fired him up. But I will say I think this is the best game I have seen Quay Walker play in his career. He was filling holes. Yes, he had the dropped easy interception, but I'm okay with that. You still count it as a pass deflection. But I think where he was in the run game and where he was filling holes and being in the right spot, I think this is the best Quay Walker performance.
It had to be. I mean, we talk about injuries. Christian McCaffrey is still lining up on the other side of the field. He was still like the 101 fantasy guy last year. Christian McCaffrey is absolutely all that and more. And Quay was doing the job. We're looking for a game where we see these names where, oh, there's another Rashawn Gary, there's another Van Ness, there's another Quay, there's another Quay, there's another Quay, there's another Van Ness. We're waiting to see these guys just pop up all over the place. And darn it, that was Quay on Sunday. He kept showing up, he kept filling the holes, he kept making the plays. He's a captain for a reason. I think, he heard the call out. I think absolutely he listened to a little bit of Cheese last weekend. And it's a
Fired up.
49. I don't care if they're down a couple players or not. These guys have had our names. They've been smoking us in the playoffs for years. And I think Josh Jacobs knew that. He said, "This is what they brought me for." I think Quay woke up and he said, "This is what I was drafted for, is to take these guys out. Forget about their injuries. Let's go take care of business." And this Packer team showed up. It wasn't a close game. You've heard me talk about how the Lions really take care of business. I wanted to see the Packers do that, and damn it, we did it.
Yes, they did. And Lucas Van Ness, you dropped his name. He had one play in this game that was a positive. I do want to say, watching throughout the course of that game, because he's usually near side when you're watching on TV. He's usually the guy right there, right in front of you, and you get to watch his pass rush. There is no move that he's ever putting on somebody. It is a bull rush every single time. And against an NFL player, they're just as athletic as you are. A bull rush, and being your only move is not going to work. So his development isn't where you want it to be. But as a unit, you said it, they did their job. Keyshawn Nixon punching that ball out. Xavier McKinney was there. The guys were making turnovers, and that's what you expect out of this defense. They went a little bit of a stretch where they didn't have those big turnovers, and they got them back once again in this game. And you can I like what Keyshawn Nixon said after this game, where he kind of called out the 49ers, say, hey, you can't use excuses. This is the NFL. This happens to everybody. It does. We are so worried last week that Jair Alexander was not going to be in that game. He holds that defense together. He was not there for that game, and he might not be for the foreseeable future or the rest of the season. But they went and they got it done. As a unit, you have to get it done. Like I said, I think Brandon Allen played a great game. You have Christian McCaffrey there. You have George Kittle there. You have Deebo Samuel there. Ricky Pearsall, a first-round pick. Like they still have a lot of talent on this team. But Green Bay, they didn't care. They went out, they stomped them, played together as a unit. I saw a lot of things improve. You need Quay Walker to take that step. This is the right move in the right direction. And one little shout out here, Xavier McKinney with that interception, 7 on the year now, tied for the lead. Got to be in the defensive player of the year conversation. Still at this point, I'm shooting for double digits. That's the goal. If he can get to 10 interceptions, I think he'll be right there. But he's been showing up essentially in every single game. Him and Josh Jacobs, it's been week in, week out. Brian Gutekunst going out and getting those guys in the offseason. That's really what has this team at 8-3 this year. It's been pretty incredible.
Absolutely. I was going to note that too. Masterclass day from Goody. When you keep seeing the guys that he went out and picked up that made the difference, it's the Josh Jacobs. It is the McKinney that's putting us over the edge. Having a kicker is a big difference, having wins. And my monster of the week, Malik Willis is a big monster of the week. He's catching a win this week. There's so many backup quarterbacks coming into their teams right now and just being bad and losing games. Nixon said at the end of the game, our backup quarterback came in. We won a few games. We won 3 games with, Malik back there. Two, you had the full start. Cooper Rush is taking L's. Allen's taking an L. You saw what happened in Miami when their backup quarterback came in. Just another masterclass move from Goody, and that's why Malik Willis is my monster of the week.
I love it. We talk about it the whole season. I actually had people close, like my grandpa was asking me if Malik Willis should be starting over Jordan Love because how good he looked in those couple of games when he showed up. And it was an actual conversation that I had to have with people because Malik Willis played perfect football for what he had to do to the point where that conversation can even be had. So great monster of the week. I love that. That's a great pick. We'll switch gears here. A bit more a sad game. The Wisconsin Badgers losing for the first time against Nebraska in 11 matchups. This was a terrible game from top to bottom. Not a lot of positives to take out of here. Badgers Twitter was very angry once again, and they're calling for Luke Fickell's seat now, which I thought right away it was justifiable to be saying Phil Longo needs to go. Well, Phil Longo's gone. And Luke Fickell's the head coach. So now after another bad performance, you got to call for Fickell's head. I want to have your take on this, and I'll touch on it after you do.
We've talked about this a couple times. I still think it's a little too early to take Fickell out. I think his big process was the recruiting, and I think he just absolutely has to have a spot with this program for the next year or so. I'm not sure if he's calling the plays right now, but there's got to be some sort of shift in management with the team and how we're playing football. Like we in such a bad game this past weekend, we still gave up 0 sacks. Lock dropped back 30 times. We gave up 0 sacks. The strength of this team still is the offensive line. We just got to figure out a way to use it. I hope this Vinny kid sticks around for another year. Who knows if he will? He's looking like he might get a little draft spot late in the rounds. But hopefully he sticks around. Hopefully we see some of this Fickell process because that's why we got him. He's a recruiter. I'd hate to see us, take the wheels off the ship before it ever gets going. But that being said, we're well aware that something has to change with this Badgers team.
What I will say about this is, yes, first step was getting Phil Longo out. At the moment that I saw them go out of the shotgun on 4th and 1, I knew that it wasn't going to work. And it continued to just show that time and time again this year. Luke Fickell's first true recruiting class are freshmen this year. Like Luke Fickell's guys are not there.
Yeah.
And I do want to mention they just picked up one of the top quarterback recruits in the nation, got him to flip from Michigan, Carter Smith. So he
It's
probably won't
huge.
start next year for Wisconsin, but he's going to be in the mix. And Bickle's getting his job done. His recruiting classes and the way that they're ranked are kind of miles ahead of where recent Wisconsin coaches have been. And that's what he's been known for. And looking at the rankings, he's been there and he's been doing it. We just haven't seen his guys really on the field being that main impact so far for this Badgers team. So yes, I agree. We have to stay patient. You're not even 2 years into the Luke Fickell era. And yeah, it feels bad, but they're taking a couple steps back to go that many steps forward because you know that you need to be able to recruit that talent to go and get a national title. And that's why Chris McIntosh brought him in. And I think he's been able to show that he can bring in that top talent. Now it's just the coordinators and the defense looking terrible against Nebraska. They can't look like that. They did the same thing against Iowa. I don't understand it, how they were able to bottle up Dylan Gabriel in Oregon, but then just look terrible against Iowa and Nebraska.
They were so
Nothing
good
makes
against them.
sense to me.
They were so good against Oregon. It was
Yeah.
awesome. They played as one unit. Everybody was connected. They looked fast, and then they looked slow and confused. And it's like the three different guys were getting three different plays in. I don't know.
I I don't think it's a fickle issue. I think it's a scheme issue, which yes, as I said, he takes fault for that, but it's Fickle is there for his recruiting. Boy, they got to make some hires, and that's how this team moves forward. And I'll say it again: that schedule next year, things are not as bad right now as I think they are going to be next year for Wisconsin. Like you are on a downward slope. You have not hit rock bottom yet. If you think you've hit rock bottom as a Wisconsin Badger fan in this era, we're not there yet. Look at the schedule next year. There are some scary things ahead. I do want to touch this a little bit on the Badgers basketball. They're able to win their early season tournament, 33 points for John Tonje. He is my Munster of the week. He has been carrying this Wisconsin offense. He is a transfer coming over his 6th year in NCAA. He's been one of the best players in college basketball so far early in this season. And Greg Gard talked a little bit about him in the offseason, saying, hey, this transfer, he's really good, which everyone kind of looked at and he's like, okay, Gard, he's being the good politician. He's the good guy. He's getting our hopes up about some mid-level transfer that's going to be a mid-level player. John Tonje has broke out. He has multiple over 30-point games. He has that 40-point game against Arizona. John Tonje is the guy. He took the picture with Frank the Tank Kaminsky. Could be right at that level, I think. This could be a guy that carries Wisconsin to go deep.
My cat
Sam
just
just
tried
got
climbing.
attacked. Sam just got attacked. Was that your cat?
Yeah, that was my cat. He tried jumping up and climbing on my chest. It's not that little anymore.
He's pretty excited about John Tonje
I
too. I
think
can't
so.
fault him for that. But the Bucks, no, not the Bucks. I'm sorry. The Badgers basketball squad looking hot. It looks like they got that true number one.
Hey, Tanji's on a dating roll. And like we said, that's what you want to see when it's coming to March time is having that guy that you can rely on. Badgers have scored 79 points in every single game this year. We're a ranked team. I don't think anybody saw that coming from a Badgers offense at all. We should have a pretty easy win against Chicago State coming up. And I think the next big game is coming up on the 7th. I believe that's Michigan, I want to say. But
Oh,
we
I had the
should be 8
schedule.
and 0, 9 and 0 going into a big game, and this Badgers team's looking legit. We got a guy. It looks like we should be, in the top 20 picture all year long. And Tanjay, man, I'm excited to see the growth. He's a senior, he's just getting better and better. So let's go on Tanjay to the moon.
That's right. Chicago State on Saturday, and then yes,
Yep.
Michigan on Tuesday, December 3rd. That's the
Who's
next.
the game on the 7th? Is that Purdue?
Uh, that game is Marquette, and I know you want
Marquette,
to
that's
talk
the
a little bit
one.
about that.
That's the one. Speaking of which, hey, Badgers have a guard. So does Marquette. Cam Jones right now. If you don't know, now you know. He is so good. I think he's shooting 45% from three right now on the season. He's averaging 26 and a half, 4.5. Marquette's undefeated. They're the number 10 team in the country. This is a little bit of cheese, and we can't forget about those cheeseheads in Milwaukee. Marquette puts together a good team every single year. And this guy, Cam Jones, he's 6'5", 200. He's a big guard, and he's shooting lights out. He's playing good defense. I watched a little bit of Marquette reruns over the weekend, and this guy Cam Jones, he's looking really, really legit. I'm excited for the Badgers Marquette game coming up.
I'll be honest, I learned a new name today in Cam Jones, and I had to look him up. And when you look him up, what pops up first is the linebacker for the Kansas City Chiefs. So I don't think a lot of people are aware of Cam Jones yet, but Sam bringing him to light on the mainstream here on a little bit of cheese. Uh, we will move and switch gears once again here. I know Sam's got a lot of notes here. He seemed very passionate. He texted me. He said, I need to get on a pedestal here, put the spotlight on me. I got to talk a little bit of Bucks. So now the spotlight, everything, all the attention will go to Sam. So he's got some notes here for the Bucks, who are on the rise and now at 8-9.
I'm gonna go through Giannis's last eight games real briefly. His stats from the last eight games: 32, 11, and 6, 37, 10, 11, 41, 9, and 8, 20, 13, 4, 22, 15, 12, 59, 14, and 7, 23, 4, and 7, 43, 13, and 5. This is silly.
Is his MVP odds in the top five?
Uh,
like,
Right? And the Bucks tweeted out that's good enough for third team all NBA.
right.
What's still, and it's all like over 60% shooting. The efficiency's crazy. He's adding a couple blocks and a couple steals a game. Giannis is that guy. He is 100% that guy. He can bring your team to a championship. He can single-handedly be the best player in the NBA. I think he's the best player in the NBA right now. And that's
Mhm.
where the frustration with these Bucks come in, because Giannis 100% can put up 59 and win you a game on any single night. 59 and 15 with like 6 on 75% shooting or something silly. Brook can dominate the paint. Damian Lillard is Damian. He's a top 75 player for a reason. Bobby can be a double-double guy anytime. AJ Green can shoot the lights out. We're 6-1 over the past 7 games. The frustration with the Bucks is how damn good they are. The reason people want to blow the whole thing up is because they know that this should be a championship team. The reason everybody wants to sell everybody is because, we lose a couple games and we should be 28-0. This team is so good, and it's so evident when you watch them. We are built to dominate. And when we don't, that's when the city starts to burn. We're still without Chris Middleton. We're still just getting rolling. Giannis and Dame were very clear that they didn't practice together over the offseason. Giannis is the best player in the world. I watched LeBron dominate the league. Kevin Durant always had his team there. Steph always had his team there. Giannis is in that same conversation. He is that dominant. The reason we haven't had postseason success is straight up Giannis injury. He hurt his back against the Heat. He was hurt against the Pacers last year. Uh, you know, Chris went out against the Celtics, and that was a younger Giannis. Was that like 5 years ago? I mean, Giannis's health has been the biggest detriment to our post lack of postseason success. He is that guy. The Bucks are that team. I wanted us to see us like a 500 team by about 25, 30 games in the year, and we're already there. I mean, the Bucks
Yeah.
team is just fine, and I'm so excited. One quick note: I've been talking about trading Bobby. To trade Bobby, you got to get something better. You got to improve. We can't
Mhm.
get rid of Bobby if it doesn't make us, because he does have a role. I don't hate Bobby because he's bad at basketball. I don't like him and his fit. So if we're gonna move Bobby, I want to see us better. I don't want to see us like make moves just to make moves, because the team right now is so 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 good, and that's where the frustrations come in.
I will say Boston also looks that good right now.
They
Like
do.
they
They do.
they are firing on all cylinders. I'm a little bit concerned about the beast of the East, and that is Boston right now. But yeah, you said it perfectly. Giannis has the perfect nickname. He is a freak. The fact this guy doesn't have even more MVPs is baffling to me. Like shooting over 60%, averaging over he's incredible. He's the best basketball player I've watched, and we're so lucky to call him a Milwaukee Buck. And once Chris Middleton gets in there and you can start get a little bit more perimeter defense, that this team is going to be very scary. And I think they enter that conversation with Boston. I think they're right there. And I know I was really low on it what improvements are you seeing in Doc Rivers' coaching style and how this team has started to improve after that really rough start?
They're making the extra pass. So the assist numbers are going up. I think over a 3 game stretch, we had the most assists over a 3 game stretch over anybody in the league. And that was just last week. Dame had 3 games in a row where he was averaging over 10 assists a game. We're making the extra pass. We're getting it to the guys. And then Giannis is taking over the way that he can when we know he can. I mentioned what Dame watching Giannis drop 59. I think that was really good for the team, Dame and the team, for him to understand that he's a facilitator. We saw a couple really fun pick and rolls with Giannis and Dame. Saw a couple like ghost switches with Brooke and Giannis. I love that they're doing that a little bit more. And Torian Prince in the corner right now, he's shooting from three this year, Cody.
Uh,
53%.
Ooh, ooh, okay.
So
Ah,
Torian
got
Prince
that
is
hot
doing
hand.
his job at the outside. And so I think what Doc is doing is Doc can channel a lot of the Chris Paul, Blake Griffin motion that he had with the
Mm-hmm.
Clippers. So we're not really looking for two dominant scorers. I think at this point in his career right now, if Dame treats himself more like that Chris Paul facilitator and Giannis treats himself more like that Blake Griffin roller, I think that opens up a lot of their game because Dame is still going to have that 3 point threat. Just because he's not playing that and forcing that shot doesn't mean defenses still aren't going to be pressing him. So I'm really looking forward to a little bit of this more attacking Giannis, using this to create everything else. And I think we've seen just a little bit more of that, and everybody is eating as a result.
It took him a little bit of time, but I think you have to be comfortable and confident with how Doc is starting to mesh with this team. This is really the first time you've seen him go on a stretch of this team consistently winning, and it's been over the stretch of a couple of weeks. So once they've gotten to this point, I think it's all positives when we look ahead. So we'll go a little bit quickly here, but we're going to move into everybody's favorite segment of the show. It is the cheese grater. Sam and I rattle off quick questions back and forth. I'll start it off. Do you look at this past game as a step forward for Jordan Love, even with those dangerous throws?
Yes. Yeah, it's a step forward. It's got to be a mental hurdle for him and for everybody getting through the 49ers, getting through a game without an interception, even if there wasn't, tangible evidence of like a Jared Goff 20 for 22 type of game. It's no picks and it's a win over the 49ers. That's a win.
Agreed.
Cody, I talked about wanting to see an alpha come up in the passing game. Who do you want that to be?
So I do have to shout out Tucker Craft as my name
Yeah.
here on Zoom here. Happy Tucker Tuesday. I tweeted right after that first touchdown. Tucker Tuesday is going to go nuts this week. And I think it's been a great Tucker Tuesday so far. Uh, I want to see it. I would love to see it be Christian Watson. I think that would be what you want. He's the big, strong, physical receiver that you drafted high. You had all the high hopes for, but I don't think it will be him because of what you saw last week, and that is the big drop on those easy throws down the field. If you can feel comfortable with that, then you can feel more comfortable force feeding him the ball. And I talked about it 2 weeks ago when they threw it into double coverage to Christian Watson, and he makes a tough catch there. And now you have him open running down the sideline for an easy 50-yard bomb. You can't drop that. You just can't. Where then it moves up, and I think Jaden Reed is the guy. And until Christian Watson can get over those dropsies, I think it will be Jaden Reed. But I don't think they need to force it to anybody. I think you can have everybody work as one unit and just feed all the mouths. You saw Malik Heath run a beautiful, beautiful fade route. Dontavion Wicks is there for a catch over the middle for 30 something yards. Everybody on this roster can do it. Keep defenses guessing. I don't think you need a number one. Uh, how bad would it have to be for Fickle to be fired next year? As there might be 6 teams that are all in the top 20. So I'd say you almost write in those 6 losses without saying you go against Fickle. How many losses would it take for Luke Fickle to get the axe?
I would hate to see it happen just because I want to be part of the process, but I bet if I mean 8 losses and you gotta
Eight?
go.
Eight?
You
See,
gotta
I
go.
said that on ESPN lacrosse, and everyone's like, 8 losses. I think he gets those. I think he just gets next year regardless, is what they were
Yeah.
saying to me, which he might. He might because they invested a lot into Luke Fickle.
A little bit around the league. Saquon is having a heck of a day, heck of a year. Where does he rank in some of the best running backs you've ever seen in your lifetime?
Okay. So you kind of have this conversation. See, Saquon for me, he's had a lot of injury problems over the course of his career. And this is peak Saquon Barkley. We have not seen a Saquon Barkley like we've seen this year. And even where he's at, I don't know. I watched the highlights of Walter Payton and Barry Sanders and Jim Brown back in the day. I don't even know if Saquon is top 10 yet. And this is
Just
like,
your
I just have,
lifetime. Just your life since 2000.
oh, just my lifetime?
Yeah, I got him three.
You got him as three? Who's
Yeah,
ahead?
AP and CJ 2K. As far
I'll
as
put
single,
Saquon over CJ 2K. That season was just we're down by a lot and we'll just pitch him the ball and see what happens. But AP, yes, AP was the best running back I have watched in my lifetime, 100%. I
yeah,
will ooh, Marshawn or Saquon. That's a good kind because Marshawn Lynch was he was that dog. Shady McCoy too. Another Philly guy. Shady McCoy was also a guy. He's Saquon's probably top five. Derrick Henry, I think, is right there too. And he
that'd be up
played
there.
a heck of a game. I think those guys are on the top five. I don't know what Barkley's doing is special. That game that he had this past weekend was something special. 255 rushing yards, 2.5 football fields, getting a handoff. That's incredible. I've never watched one of those games live. I think Peterson rushed for 297 once, but those are one of those games that you just don't forget. And Saquon getting it done. Some Badgers basketball here. Does John Tonje have a shot for one of the best players in college basketball this year when it gets to the end of it?
He's got a shot. I think his trajectory is awesome. I think you're looking for a player who's just going to get better and better and better and better, and start captivating audiences. The Badgers weren't supposed to be this good, and they weren't supposed to have this guy. So you get a team in the top 10 that shouldn't really be there, and a guy that nobody planned on it. I love it. I think he can be in the argument. Cody, Thanksgiving's coming up. What's your favorite Thanksgiving dish?
Ooh, give me apple pie.
Apple
Apple pie.
pie, a
I don't
little
know.
bit of ice cream on
I
it.
got like yeah, or like just some good like regular whipped cream. Like my grandpa makes his own whipped cream where he doesn't use like the ready whip or whatever. He says that's not the real
Mm,
stuff. So just regular whipped cream. I'm also a big salmon guy, big stuffing guy. They always do
yeah.
smoked salmon. I'll have you do your top three real quick.
Oh man, a good stuffing is awesome. A good gravy, you can't beat it, man. And I'll go with a pie too. I'll go rhubarb pie.
Rhubarb. I like rhubarb. That's a good
Love me
pie.
some rhubarb pie. I think Thanksgiving's a good time for pie. Everything's going to heck
I
over
agree.
here.
I'm a big pie guy. I always get the sampler platter actually at the end of every Thanksgiving. Because they usually make like five different pies. So I got to have at least a sliver of every single pie. I'm
A
just
little
a
bit of French
big
silk
pie
pie in
connoisseur.
there.
Have
Ooh.
not, have not been. Haven't been.
Ooh.
No. Maybe you got to make me a French silk pie. We'll see. All right. We'll move on to our headline predictions for this week. We're going to focus on the Thanksgiving game. Green Bay hosting Miami. It's going to be a cold one. 20-degree wind chill is what I saw. And Miami struggles in the cold,
Yeah.
which leads to my headline prediction, which both Sam and I were incorrect from last week. We thought San Francisco was going to have Brock Purdy and Nick Bosa and Trent Williams, but those guys weren't there, and Green Bay rolled. We didn't expect that. But for this week, I have Josh Jacobs keeps on feasting. The Pack dominate over Miami.
He will keep on feasting. Really looking forward to a big win on Thursday night. We got ourselves a Thanksgiving fish fry. Don't get mad at me,
Ooh.
PETA. Packers
Ooh.
cooked the Dolphins. Send them back to Florida with the leftovers.
That's good. That's good. I just hope that Tua Tagovailoa stays healthy. I things just feel weird in the cold. Everything feels weird when I watch Tua play. But I think Green Bay stands a pretty good shot here. I don't think Miami's going to be able to do much. We will see how that secondary holds up against a really solid passing offense, though. That's where I think everything's going to have to be zoned in on. But I think Packers offense is just going to roll, and I think it all goes through with Josh Jacobs. Well, we want to thank you guys for being here today. Happy Thanksgiving. Feast it up. We are not going to have a show at the end of this week, so Sam and I will be back next week for Monday reactions. We'll cover all the games and everything that goes on this weekend. I'm Cody Depius. That's Sam Douglas. We'll see you once again for another edition of A Little Bit of Cheese, your bite-sized Wisconsin sports podcast.